Self and the divided soul. The paradox of duality and non-duality. Shadows in my mirror. I remember the first time I truly confronted the thought. I was alone in my apartment late at night, the kind of silence that feels heavy, almost alive. I had been reading about a man, a mind estranged from compassion. Someone whose choices had shocked humanity. And suddenly, almost against my will, a question rose in me. If the Atma, the soul, the pure consciousness inside me, is identical to the Atma inside him, then what am I really? The room seemed smaller suddenly, the shadows deeper. I felt a chill, not from fear, but from recognition. Not of him, but of something inside me, something raw and fundamental, watching, silently, the Atma or soul. I had always believed that my empathy, my choices, my restraint, defined me. That my thoughts and feelings separated me from people like him. And yet, as I sat there, I realized, the difference isn't at the level of Atma or soul. It's in the layers I've accumulated. Ego, habits, emotions, conditioning. The silent observer inside me, the part that simply is the same as the silent observer inside him. I had to sit with that thought. I had to feel it. Because it was unsettling in a way philosophy rarely is. How can the same consciousness dwell in someone capable of incomprehensible actions? And in me, who has never caused such harm? And in that unsettling stillness, I began to see the paradox that would haunt me for weeks. Advaita, the principle of non-duality, tells me that all Atma or soul is one. But if that's true, then in essence, I share the same consciousness as the one I fear. I didn't want to leave it there. I had to understand it, not as a concept, but as an experience. Walking the edge of myself. The next morning, I walked through the forest near my home. The fog clung to the ground, and the trees loomed like silent guardians. I remember the cold biting my cheeks, the dampness settling in my lungs. And there, in that silence, I began to imagine him, not as a monster, but as a consciousness, a human being, shaped by his own layers of thought and circumstance. I tried to see the world through his eyes, and it was terrifying. The compulsions, the obsessions, the moments where he crossed thresholds I never could, everything felt alien, yet undeniably real. And yet, as I closed my eyes and breathed in the mist, I felt the same silent witness watching him that watches me, that same Atma or soul. I won't lie, it was disorienting. My mind resisted it. I am not him, I kept repeating. I am not capable of that. I am not evil. And yet, deeper down, in the quiet of my consciousness, I had to acknowledge, the Atma or soul doesn't care about labels. It simply is. It was then that I remembered Beda-Peda, the principle of difference and non-difference. I realized that while the Atma or soul is identical, the layers above it, ego, conditioning, chitta or the mind stuff, create the appearance of separation. His impulses, his choices, his chaos, are his ripples in the lake of consciousness. Mine are mine. The lake is the same. The ripples are different. I started to see it in myself too. Moments of anger I barely controlled. Impulses I tried to ignore. Patterns I recognized but didn't always change. I understood, with an almost painful clarity, that the same potential exists in all of us. That recognition didn't make me afraid. It made me awake. I remember stopping by a stream in that forest, watching the water ripple around fallen leaves. The lake is calm beneath the surface, untroubled by wind or rain. I realized that my consciousness, like the lake, remained untouched by my ripples. And yet, the ripples mattered. They were visible, tangible. They shaped the world. It was here, in the stillness of that stream, that I felt the tension of my humanity. Understanding the unity of consciousness didn't erase responsibility. It didn't absolve wrongdoing. It didn't erase the horror of his actions. But it gave me clarity, a lens to see both darkness and light without fear. Learning to live with paradox. Weeks later, I found myself back in my apartment. The night quiet again, though this time it felt different. The fear had softened into something else, awareness. I realized that the Atma or the soul inside me is identical to the Atma or soul inside the one I fear. And yet, I am not him, I am not my impulses. I am not my past mistakes. I am the observer, the silent presence that can pause, reflect, and act differently. That realization humbled me. It also liberated me. I began to see the world differently, not in simple binaries of good and evil, right and wrong, self and other, but as a spectrum where unity and difference coexist. Where the divided soul is both like me and not like me. Where the saint, the stranger, and I all share the same silent core. And with this perspective came a practical truth: understanding non-duality doesn't excuse harm. It doesn't eliminate consequences. But it gives me empathy without confusion, clarity without judgment. It asks me to observe my impulses, my habits, my choices, and to engage with the world consciously. I think back to that foggy forest, the stream, the stillness. Every action I take, every ripple I create in the lake of life, matters. His actions left destruction, mine can heal. The difference exists in action, in awareness, in choice. So, I look into the mirror now, into my own eyes, into the reflection that carries both shadow and light, and I feel a quiet resolve. I am neither reducible to impulse nor defined by circumstance. I am both universal and individual, fragile and luminous. I have the potential for darkness, but I also have the power to act with consciousness. And in this paradox, I find both humility and courage. The world is not simple. Life is not simple. And yet, there is a path through it. Not by denying the darkness within us or around us, but by recognizing it, witnessing it, and choosing our ripples carefully. Reflection on realization. As I sit back and reflect on this journey, I feel the weight and the grace of it. I've come to understand that my consciousness, the Atma or soul I inhabit, is identical to the consciousness inside everyone, from the healer to the one I fear. That realization is humbling, even unsettling. But it also opens a space for profound empathy and responsibility. I see now that life is neither purely dual nor purely non-dual. It is both. We are simultaneously unique and universal. Every thought, every impulse, every choice creates ripples that shape the world around us. And while I cannot control others' ripples, I can witness them, learn from them, and choose my own with care. This understanding does not absolve me of moral responsibility. It reminds me that awareness is the tool we have to act consciously, to navigate our impulses, and to shape our lives with intention. The lake of consciousness is vast and unchanging. But our ripples, the ways we manifest in the world, are tangible, real, and meaningful. And so, I sit with both clarity and humility. I see the shadow and the light within myself, within others, and in the universe. I recognize the potential for harm and the capacity for healing. And I choose to act with awareness, compassion, and reflection. It is in this careful, conscious engagement with life that I find the deepest truth. The paradox of duality and non-duality is not something to solve, it is something to live. And living it, I find, is its own quiet liberation. Thanks for your time. It's been a delight. Join Orbital Reads and keep your thoughts bright.